balance, they're still very good. They're still very good, right? Because they're just top class athletes, but then their recovery, their muscle performance may not be at optimum to be able to compete at their level,
Yeah.
right? So someone like yourself, and when I was in Malaysia, we did work with some athletes who had to experiment themselves to adjust the salt and the protein intake to figure out at which point they need to adjust so that. And interesting, if they take too much of this, then their performance also drop. Take too little of that, their performance also drop. So they had to find that on their own. So having
Yep,
someone like you
exactly.
there, wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
It's complicated.
So, Christabelle, do you work with a specific team on certain sport, or you cover different kind of sports and individualize or the diet plan for them?
Okay. Usually, because I'm not the only sport dietitian here, so we have several of us. So everyone actually covers different sport groups. So for me, myself, I'm actually specialized in the para athletes, the Paralympic athletes.
Very good.
Yeah, the disabled athletes. Yeah. Yep. So for disabled athletes, previously, I was alone, so I had to cover every single one. But now I had a new colleague, so yeah, both of us are covering for our Malaysia
Christabelle,
para
our
team.
para athletes did very well in the Paralympics, so I'm sure you played a role in providing them the right nutrition advice. So thank you for your national service. Yeah.
Thank you too. Thank you too. Yeah, they did
Alright,
well. Yeah.
well done.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupt. Yeah, so we're going to start soon. Okay.
All right.
See the signal from our. Okay, hello everyone. Hopefully everybody is in a good state of health. And we are very pleased with the attendees so far, showing a good interest on today's topic. And we are going to wait for another few minutes to ensure that everyone is here. Also to note for the Q&A sessions revolving our invited speaker later on, it's sufficient to put any inquiries you might have in YouTube's comment section. So we will have a few invigilators that will select these questions to be brought up to the speakers later on. So just keep that in mind. Again, thank you for the show of interest, and we will be commencing soon. Okay, a very good afternoon to everyone. Well, depending on where you are now geographically, it is now 1:10 p.m. here in Malaysia. So let's not keep you waiting any longer. And with that, I would like to welcome all our panelists as well as participants for today's Sport Nutrition's webinar entitled Feeling Your Exercise. My name is Luke Nicole from University Technology Mara and will be emceeing today's webinar. So first of all, before we start, I would like to show an enormous gratitude to our fellow organizer that has made this webinar possible. And looking at the tentative, so we have Dr. Simon Sam, who are talking about the protein and exercise performance. And we have Miss Christabelle. So the tentative. So who will talk about the high performance sport nutrition's recovery. First of all, before we start, a million thanks to Herbalife Nutrition's National Sport Institute and University Technology Mara. In today's webinar, we are going to explore the nutrition's recovery in high performance sport and the relations of protein and exercise performance. So it's going to be an engaging and interesting day indeed. To kickstart today's webinar, I would like to call upon the Senior Director, General Manager, Herbalife Nutrition's Malaysia and Singapore, Mr. Stephen Chin, to deliver the welcoming speech. Please, Mr. Stephen Chin.
All right, thank you, MC, and good afternoon, and a very welcome to everyone, especially to Professor Anizu, the Dean for Faculty of Sports and Science and Recreation here at UiTM, Dr. Zulkarnain, the Senior Lecturer for Faculty of Sports Science and Recreation here at UiTM as well, Ms. Christabelle Chong, thanks for joining us in this session, from our sports dietitian from Institute Sukan Negara, of course, Dr. Simon Sam, our Director for North America Scientific Affairs here at Herbalife Nutrition, all the students here at UiTM and all the viewers who's dialing in from wherever you are around the world. I trust you are healthy and safe. So thank you for tuning in to today's very exciting webinar. On behalf of Herbalife Nutrition, we are pleased to once again to have this wonderful opportunity to partner with a very reputable, a very dedicated, a well-established university here, University Technology Mara, UiTM, and Institute Sukan Negara to shed light on sports nutrition and how it resonates strongly with our aspirations here to boost your performance. As a premier nutrition company here in Malaysia, we are driven by our healthy, active lifestyle philosophy. It's effectively a way of life that incorporates exercise and healthy nutrition to improve overall well-being. In line with this, one of our key pillars is encouraging Malaysians to embrace healthy lifestyle. And this resonates well, of course, with the recently announced government initiative called Agenda Nasional Malaysia Sehat, basically to get us all healthy, their initiatives. Now, these past 2 years have brought on certainly different challenges to many of us, right? So many of us adopting to a very new normal. It's different for different people, right? But this usually meant we had to sacrifice some key habits, and maybe along the way we picked up some that were less beneficial to all of us because we're all cooped up at home, yeah? So our recent Herbalife Nutrition Asia Pacific Health Inertia survey done in 2021, it shows that as a result of the pandemic situation, over 6 out of 10 Malaysians saw their physical and mental health deteriorating. It was less than ideal. The survey also showed that besides deteriorating in the physical health in the past 12 months, 8 in 10 of the Malaysian respondents said it was because of the lack of physical activity. And this is no surprise. All of us, the movement restrictions that was in and out, certainly wasn't ideal to encourage all of us who were very active, right? And this was followed next by not eating healthy. So 42% of Malaysians said because they didn't eat healthy, and of course coupled with the help of exercise, that wasn't the best combination. So after nearly 2 years since March 2020 when MCO started, right? I think it's a great sign that humanity is starting to win over the pandemic, right? So we can breathe a sigh of relief as we now can start to slowly return to some normalcy and get involved again in various healthy, active lifestyles and sporting events. So we at Herbalife Nutrition is looking forward then as Malaysians get back out again to support you on this health and fitness journey to ensure your body get what it needs. So for today's webinar, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to drill down into sports nutrition, and we're really privileged to have Dr. Simon Sam joining us all the way from Los Angeles. Dr. Simon, thanks for joining us this evening in LA. He is our North America Scientific Affairs at Herbalife Nutrition, and he will share insights on protein. It's a very vital component in every athlete's diet. Protein, most of us will know that protein is for muscle building. What else can protein do, right? So Dr. Simon Sam will shed some light into that, right? So myself, I am an avid mountain biker, as you can see even in my background here behind. And I got to know Dr. Hosni as well. He's a mountain biker. Hopefully we can hit the trails together one day in the future. I'm sure that soon. Now, getting sufficient protein intake is essential in fueling the body, right? It also provides needed strength and endurance, especially when we hit the hard trail. Yeah. And also that protein helps in the muscle and aids my recovery. Now, I don't want to take the thunder away from Dr. Simon. So let him share with you the juicy stuff, yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, and all the students are dialing in. So in addition to the various programs that we have in place to encourage healthy, active lifestyle, These programs are such as the Herbalife Nutrition Month in March, where we highlight on nutrition awareness. So that's coming next year, right? And just recently, past September, we had this Get Moving with Good Nutrition initiative, which is a virtual run across all of Asia Pacific. So we also offer a wide range of products to help Malaysians reach their desired health and fitness goals. Yeah, we are conscious of the fact that the needs of and preferences of different consumers always evolving. So we constantly have to innovate our products and our supplements to improve and complement these dietary habits. So a good example of this is our Herbalife 24 CR7 Drive. Yeah, so it's a sports drink that was developed in together with Cristiano Ronaldo. So I hope everyone is familiar who Cristiano Ronaldo is. So together with him, we developed this drink called Herbalife 24 CR7 Drive. It basically fuel workouts and enhances hydration. And our latest innovation, which we just launched last week, is called the Herbalife 24 RS Pro. In other parts of the world, it's called Rebuild Strength. It basically enhances muscle recovery post-workout. Now, that's also important. A lot of people like to dive into the activity, get really intense, but then they're missing that part. I think Christabelle will be filling in that part about the importance of recovery to complete the whole workout experience, right? So through ourselves, through our products and engagement with the community, we hope to provide nutritious products at the same time basically raise awareness. Because there is it's not just the exercise component, but together with healthy eating and active lifestyle and good nutrition to ensure you have a more complete and fulfilled a performance experience. Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm confident that today you're gonna pick up a thing or two from Simon and Christabelle. It's going to be a fruitful one, and hopefully we shed some light to help you to optimize your workouts from both the start from fueling your body to recovering from your activity, right? So we believe it's important to get sports nutrition knowledge at a young age. So for all those who are dialing in today, congratulations, you're here to basically level up in terms of your nutrition awareness. So congratulations for being here. So this education has to be personalized. Yeah, because everybody, as what Christabelle just mentioned just now, every person is a bit different. Okay, and you have your own unique needs. So because of that, as athletes, let's try to understand everything that's going on with the body, because what you fuel yourself is what's going to power you, right? So thank you on that note. Thank you all and have a great session. Oh, that's a strong ending, right? Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Steven Chin. So really hope that this will be an exciting session. Moving on, I'd like to introduce you to the accredited member of the Science Senior Lecturer.
It's a bit soft, yeah.
So without further ado, I'm going to pass this to the technical expert for the introductions of the speaker.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Luke, and thank you very much for the welcoming speech from Mr. Steven Shins, the Senior Director and General Manager Herbalife Nutrition Malaysia and Singapore. Thank you very much, Mr. Steven Shins. All right, Assalamualaikum and good morning, good afternoon. Thank you all for finding time and joining today's symposium or today webinar. My name is Ahmad Zulkarnain Ismail and I'll be the moderator for today. So now let me check with you. Do you hear me well, guys? All the audience, the participants? You may use the chat box to answer me. Hopefully you can hear me well. Yes. Thank you for the response. Great. Thank you very much. Professor, Doctor, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to begin the sessions. Welcome to the Fueling Your Exercise webinar conducted by the collaboration of UiTM, ISN, also Herbalife Nutritions. On behalf of the committee, I would like to express the gratitude to all the participants or audience to be here with us today. For the first session, our topic today is protein and exercise performance, and the speaker is Dr. Simon Sam, the Director, North America Scientific Affairs, Herbalife Nutrition. And we have another second sessions, and the topic is high performance sports, nutrition recovery, and the speaker is Miss Christabelle Chong, the Sport Dietitian, National Sport Institute of Malaysia. So before we start, let me explain how you can talk to us during this webinar. If you have any questions on the presentation, feel free to use the chat box on the right side of the YouTube FSR TV. All right, so we'll be glad to help you to read the question after the both speakers finish the session. So we have two sessions. For the Q&A session, we need to make sure that both speakers finish their talks. And after that, we can open for the Q&A, and you need to really just text the questions on the chat box, and myself and the team will read the question for you. So you need to worry about that things. Right? So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker for today, Dr. Simon Sam. All right, Dr. Simon Sam is a clinical nutrition doctor and a registered dietitian nutritionist. He's currently the director of North America Scientific Affairs at Herbalife Nutrition. His primary role is to ensure the safety, the scientific integrity of Herbalife products in North America and lead the personalized nutrition initiative. He also a member of Dietetic Advisory Board of Herbalife Nutrition. Prior joining Herbalife, Simon was the clinical nutrition manager at Humra Hospital Medical Center in California, where he managed clinical dietitian, dietetic technician, intern, and provided nutrition care to patients with different health issues. Dr. Simon is currently appointed as the Director at Large for the California Academy of Nutrition and Dietetic Foundation and previously he was appointed member of the Interoperability and Standard Committee of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetic in 2014 until 2017, and then elected chairman of the Chinese Americans in Dietetic and Nutrition in 2012 until 2013. Dr. Simon holds his doctorate degree in clinical nutrition from Rutgers University and 2 master degrees in medical research and nutritional science from the University of Hong Kong and California State University, Long Beach, respectively. He also an American College of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer and a fellow of the Academy of Nutrition Dietetic. Okay, with that, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Simon Sam with the title Protein and Exercise Performance. Let's enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ismail. Thank you so much. First, let me share my screen. Just want to make sure you can see my screen. Yep, okay. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to be here today, and thanks UiTM for the invitation. For my session, we'll take a look on protein and exercise performance. As Dr. Ismail has already introduced me with my background, so I better not spend much time to repeat this. So thanks again, Dr. Ismail, for the introduction. So in the next 20 minutes, let's go over some protein basics and see whether protein can enhance endurance and resistant exercise performance. We'll also see if protein consumption can affect our body composition. When is the good time to eat protein? How do we look at protein quality, protein sources? How about its safety? And how much protein do we need for a day, especially for health active athletes? So before we discuss how protein affects exercise performance, let me refresh our memory on some basic knowledge of protein. As we are all aware that protein is an essential nutrient for all of our cells and is made of different amino acids, which are the building blocks of our body tissue. All muscles, tendons, blood vessels, skin, hair, and nail are all made of protein. There are 9 essential amino acids that our body cannot make, and we must consume them from food. And among these 9 essential amino acids, 3 of them highlighted here in green are the branching amino acids, BCAA, that we always hear about them in sports nutrition. One thing we should not forget is that protein is a macronutrient, and each gram of protein provides 4 calories. Carbohydrate also provides 4 calories per gram, and fats provide 9 calories per gram. All these numbers are important if we need to control our calorie intake for our exercise goals. It's also important to remember the digestion process of protein, since it can help us plan the timing of protein consumption. So mechanical breakdown of protein starts in the mouth, and our stomach is the main location for protein digestion. Pepsin is the enzyme responsible to catalyze the breakdown of protein into polypeptides, and they are further broken down into di or tripeptide or amino acids in the small intestine. Food generally stays in our stomach between 40 to 120 minutes. And the denser the food, meaning more protein or fat, the longer time it takes to digest. Therefore, if someone is going to participate in rigorous exercise in an hour or 2, he or she should not be consuming heavy loaded food before the exercise to avoid any kind of abdominal discomfort. For exercise performance, we will look at the effects of protein on endurance and resistance exercise separately. So now let's look at endurance exercise first. Actually, there were not a lot of studies investigating the effects of prolonged protein intake on the performance of endurance exercise. And most studies did not show any added improvement in this type of exercise. One thing to note is that these studies, for those studies, indicated an improvement in endurance exercise when protein was added to a drink with carbohydrates. The research design used was a time to exhaustion test. And if we want to mimic a competition situation or pacing demands, a time trial is the preferred design instead. In 2020, last year, Larson et al. Conducted a randomized crossover trial to study the effects of protein consumption prior to carbohydrate-restricted endurance exercise. Some of you may refer that as training low when we restrict carbohydrate. In that study, 9 well-trained athletes were asked to complete a 2-day trial. On the first day, they completed a high-intensity interval ergometer bike ride in the evening. And then on the second day morning, they consumed the experimental beverage right before a 90-minute steady state cycling bout. The protein content of the experimental beverage was 0.5 gram per kilogram lean body mass of the athletes. The authors concluded that protein ingestion prior to endurance type exercise with restricted carbohydrate does not enhance protein synthesis in working muscles or improve muscle protein balance in non-working muscles. And to give you the other example was back in 2006, McDermott et al. Compared the effects of 2 diets, one high protein and moderate carbohydrate, and one moderate protein and high carbohydrate on endurance trained cyclists. After 7 days consumption of this diet, it was found that for those cyclists on high protein and moderate carbohydrate diet, they took more time to complete the same trial. It's very important to remember that carbohydrates is always the preferred source of energy, but not protein, especially for endurance exercise. And the recommended intake for carbohydrate is 6 to 10 grams per kilogram per day. To summarize, when there is an adequate carbohydrate intake for endurance exercise, adding protein does not seem to improve the endurance performance. However, for recovery, where Mr. Christabelle will discuss later today, the available scientific evidence is saying that protein intake during or after intensive endurance exercise may at least help suppress markers related to muscle damage and may reduce the feeling of muscle soreness. Now, let's shift gear to look at protein and resistant exercise, and which I'm sure that many of you hear people talking about this topic in the gym. One of the performance indicators in resistant exercise is maximal strength enhancement. However, such enhancement depends on many factors, including the training program variables, duration of such program, the status of the participants, overall daily calorie intake, quality and quantity of protein intake, and the consumption of other dietary ingredients that may potentially impact strength. Therefore, it's not a simple solution if we want to improve our maximal strength. Here, I would like to show you two forest plots of the results. Excuse me. Go back. Yeah, I would like to show you two forest plot of the results from two systematic reviews and meta-analysis about protein supplementation on 1 RM leg press strength. The review from Cermak et al. On the left side found that protein supplementation significantly augmented the gain in fat-free mass during prolonged resistant exercise training, and subgroup analysis for age also showed that protein supplementation had a similar effect between younger and older population. And the review from Morton et al. On the right also supported that protein supplementation augmented resistant exercise training, induced increase in 1 RM strength and fat-free mass. In looking at the scientific literature about protein supplementation and strength enhancement, the overall results are inconclusive. Some studies did report the potential effects, but other studies show no benefits, especially if female were the only gender investigated. When the results were pulled together, a positive impact of protein supplementation on resistant exercise performance was indicated. So does protein intake affect our body composition? Let's take some time to look at it. For people who have consistent exercise training, we usually see that improved performance is associated with improved body composition, and obviously fat loss and muscle gain. Many studies have supported that protein supplementation combining with a hyper-energetic diet plan can help people gain more fat-free mass with resistance training. In addition, high protein intake when energy intake is restricted may help maximize the loss of fat tissue with the maintenance of fat-free mass. A meta-analysis was conducted by Castro et al. To determine the effects of whey protein supplementation on body composition of physical activity practitioners. The study included 8 randomized controlled trials with 246 healthy athletes undergoing around 2 months of training. Interestingly, there was statistically significance for fat mass loss, but not the effect on fat-free mass. One of the limitations of the analysis, according to the authors, was that all the studies included were performed only in men, and they are all high in Global Human Development Index, which means that the analysis was having a significant geosocial limitation. Here, you can see the forest plots of the analysis. On the left, you can see that the overall effect of whey protein supplementation on fat-free mass, not significant, but still on the side favoring whey protein. And on the right side, you can see that the overall effect of whey protein on fat-free mass, on fat mass, significantly favoring whey protein. One of the questions people usually ask is the best time to take protein. Should I take a lot at one time or spread it throughout the day? So let's see what we found. In order to see a net anabolic effect, we need to understand that food and exercise interact synergistically. Back in 1999, Tipon et al. Has demonstrated that acute feeding of amino acids after heavy resistance training can significantly increase muscle protein synthesis. Interestingly, our skeletal muscle actually is sensitized to the effect of protein for a day, 24 hours. And studies also suggested that a combination of protein and carbohydrate intake before exercise can achieve maximal rates of muscle protein synthesis. After exercise, protein supplementation combined with suboptimal carbohydrate consumption can support muscle glycogen recovery and help mitigate the changes in muscle damage markers. Tremolin and Loon suggested that muscle protein synthesis, MPS here, and muscle protein breakdown, MPB, are happening throughout the day. Therefore, in order to maximize muscle protein synthesis, there is a protein feeding opportunity during our sleep. And so pre-sleep protein consumption, as you can see here in the charts in the graph, could be an effective dietary strategy. Wolf et al. Conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials to investigate the role of protein intake and timing on body composition and muscle functions in healthy adults. 65 studies with almost 3,000 subjects were included. While protein supplementation were found effective in improving lean body mass, no specific benefit effects of different timing of protein consumption was found. However, it's important to note that the study divided the timing into 3 categories, which were before exercise, before and after exercise, and other timing. Therefore, it means that those timing were all effective in improving lean body mass. However, if exercise training was removed, no impact on body composition was found. That means, as what I said, if they work synergistically, so eating and also exercise are both important. Many foods contain protein, but they may not have the same amino acid profile. So how do we determine the quality of protein? What are the sources? And is there a safety limit on protein consumption? Let's take a look on this area. As you may remember what I said earlier, that there are 9 essential amino acids that we must consume from foods. Therefore, protein sources containing high amounts of EAAs are considered to be higher in protein quality. While EAAs are responsible for increasing muscle protein synthesis, remember that our body uses all 20 amino acids to make protein. Recently, a lot of attention has been paid to leucine, one of the branching amino acids, since it has been found to be independently stimulating increase in protein synthesis, but a balanced EAA consumption still provides the greatest increase. And some studies should also see the need of high leucine intake in the elderly population. There are methods developed to calculate protein quality, and they include the protein digestibility corrected amino acid score, we call it PDCAS, and the digestible indispensable amino acid score, DIAAS, in case you're interested to look further into it. When we are choosing protein foods, we should consider all sources since they all have advantages and disadvantages. Besides amino acid content, based on our nutrition need, we also need to look at other factors like calories, fat content, micronutrients content. Foods like soy, egg, and whey have a relatively higher content of leucine if this is the essential amino acids that you're looking for. But actually, all these foods I just mentioned are considered as complete protein since they contain all the essential amino acids already. Protein blends may also be a good option since it may contain more nutrients than just protein. I'm sure you hear the rumor saying that protein consumption causes liver, kidney issues. For patients who really have the renal and hepatic issues, yes, their protein intake needs to be monitored by doctors and registered dietitians. However, extending that pathophysiology to healthy exercise-trained individuals is totally not appropriate. There are studies using up to 3.3 grams per kilogram per day of protein intake on healthy resistance-trained individuals for a year, and no harmful effects were observed. And regulatory bodies and authorities, including the WHO, have indicated no evidence linking high protein intake to kidney disease. So after knowing so much about protein, how much do we really need? And what's the recommended intake? The current recommended daily intake is 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. However, many studies have challenged that this recommendation does not meet the need for a training athlete. In order to determine the protein needs, it depends on different variables, including age, exercise intensity, volume, body composition, total energy intake, training status, and training goals. The International Society for Sports Nutrition, ISSN, recommends 1.4 to 2 grams per kilogram per day of protein as a minimum. And the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, American College of Sports Medicine, and Dietitian of Canada recommend a general range of 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram per day of protein. For people who need to restrict their total calorie intake, a protein intake of 2 grams per kilogram per day or above is needed to maintain muscle mass. To summarize my session, here are some key takeaways. In order to have a balanced diet, in addition to protein, we also need to include carbohydrates and healthy fats. If the total amount of protein intake is adequate, adjusting protein timing may help stimulate muscle protein synthesis and improve recovery. Protein intake should be spread out throughout the whole day. Besides main meals, use protein snacks to balance the time between muscle protein breakdown and synthesis. While we should consider all kinds of protein foods, choose foods with higher amounts of essential amino acids as they are higher in protein quality. Supplements can be used, but it's also important to use whole foods too. For healthy exercise individuals, a recommended protein intake range is 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram per day. And the amount will depend on your age, exercise intensity, the protein quality of the foods you are eating, daily calorie need, and exercise goals. In terms of exercise performance, even though protein is an essential nutrient, we can see a little bit more added benefit in resistance training, but not too much in endurance exercise. And here's my references for you to take a look. And thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simons, for the presentation on the protein and self-performance. It's a greatly appreciate the presentation you gave, even though it's short, but it's incredibly informative and interesting. And I'm sure now there's many questions now on the chat box on our YouTube actually, but we have to wait until we finish for the second speaker to finish. And I think Simon, you can have a break now before we go to Q&A session later.
Sure.
Thank you, Simon, for that. So I'm sure all of you now getting a few information, especially on the proteins effect to the exercise performance, as Simon mentions. You must make sure that you take the protein at the right time, and then we must follow the recommendation of the intake and everything. And you must make sure what exercise that you choose, and then you get the benefits from the proteins on your body. All right. So let me introduce in our second speaker. So we have Christabelle Chong, a sport dietitian from the National Sport Institute of Malaysia. So she will talk on the high performance sport nutrition recovery. So before that, I would like to introduce about her biography and background. Miss Christabelle Chong is a sport dietitian from the National Sport Institute of Malaysia. She has graduated with the background of dietetics from the University of Science Malaysia. She is a sport dietitian specialized in elite level of Paralympic sport since year 2017. With this specialization, she handled a lot of different disability, and therefore is a good communication, especially with those who are having intellectual, visual disability, deaf, and even dysarthria. As we know, without good and effective communication, the nutrition information could not be delivered. She also the team leader for boccia sport, which recently the team had successfully created a history of Malaysia. Back Malaysia's first ever medal, silver medal for boccia sport from the Paralympic Games held in Tokyo. Well done, Christabelle Chong. Aside from sport nutrition and assisting in sport performance, Miss Christabelle managed clinical nutrition, clinical cases during her practice, provide numerous help on nutrition talks, and tutor for healthcare students and interns. For the Professional Association membership, Ms. Christabelle is one of the active members of the Malaysian Dietitian Association's MDA. She holds several certifications, including the International Society for the Advancement of Kinetometry (ISAK), Sport Science Level 1, Basic Occupational First Aid and CPR, and Accredited Advisor for UKAD. All right. So that's a little bit backgrounds about our second speaker today, Miss Christabelle Chong. So with that, I would like to hand over the session to Miss Christabelle with the title High Performance Sport Nutrition Recovery. Thank you. Let's enjoy the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zulkarnain, for the introduction. And I would like to thank our organizer as well, UiTM and also Herbalife, for inviting me here today. It's my honor to have everyone here and to share my sharing session with you all today. Okay, so let me share my screen first. Everyone can hear me, right?
Yes, very clear, Miss Isabel.
Nice. So thank you everyone for dialing in from all around the world. So I believe like maybe we have from Thailand, Indonesia, and even Malaysia. So thank you everyone for participating. So yeah, without further ado, let me start my presentation. Okay, and also would like to thank Dr. Simon earlier on for the very comprehensive and very insightful presentation. I believe everyone learned a lot. Okay, so now I'm going to share about high performance sports. I will be focusing on nutrition recovery. So everyone knows it's very important. Okay, so before that, I would like to just have some sharing. Like just now, Dr. Zulkarnain had introduced me. Yeah, so this is a few of my athletes. Okay, well done to all the athletes participating early on for the Tokyo Paralympic team. So everyone did a great job. So yep, I'm a sport dietitian specialized in the Paralympic sports, and it's also my honor to serve them and to work together with the team. Okay, yep, okay, so now we know that it's very important for a sport to perform, okay, with nutrition. But I can say nutrition, we do not work alone, okay? We work together with the team, okay? So we work with coaches and sports science team, sport medical, okay? Without any of them, I believe we wouldn't have been a great success, okay? So yep, it's like a puzzle. No one can be missing, okay? So fitness is important for our athletes, and we know that no matter what sport you are in, okay, fitness skills, okay, the technique is very important, okay. So not to forget about the psychology health as well, okay, and also recovery. Recovery, it doesn't mean from nutrition alone, okay. It comes from sleep as well, and also nutrition. So without any of this, it will not be that success, okay. But of course, today, I'm going to just focus on the nutrition part. Okay, so now here's my outline. I will go off with introduction, then I'll share about nutrition consideration for the post-training recovery. And also I'll just talk about how the training recovery is different across different sports groups, and also would like to summarize everything up. Okay, so now the introduction. Nutrition is, yes, it's increasingly recognized as a very important key component of the for the sport performance. So without adequate recovery, the beneficial adaptation and also performance may be hampered. Okay, so here we can have a look. Okay, so for dietary intake for sport performance, okay, we will focus on the macronutrients, which are the carbs, protein, fat. Okay, we have also micronutrients. Micronutrients meaning comes from the vitamins and also minerals. We do have fluids as well. It's also very important part of the recovery, and also ergogenic aids. Okay. Okay. So now, why is nutrition recovery important? Okay, so for nutrition recovery, right, we have the acute and also the long-term one. Acute means the first 6 to 8 hours, okay? So why is it important? Because we would like to have the body to rehydrate back, and then we wanted to refill back and also rebuild back the muscles, okay? And what for long-term? For long-term, it is, of course, definitely to assist the training adaptation. And of course, we would like to fasten up the recovery process. And of course, the most important part for elite level athletes is to improve their sport performance. Okay, so now the nutritional consideration, okay, for post-training recovery. Okay, so just now Dr. Simon had mentioned protein is very crucial. Okay, so is nutrition recovery all about protein? Okay, because I believe there's a lot of people, including athletes, okay, for them, when it comes to nutrition recovery, it's all about protein. Oh, recovery, I need protein. Recovery, I need protein. So is that all? Okay, so actually, recovery is more than just protein. Let me start off with carbs, okay? So I believe this is just a general refresh for everyone. So carbs, yeah, the food sources comes from rice, bread, okay, like mee hoon, kway teow, corn, potato, so whatever it is, okay? So carbs is actually the main source of energy, okay, in the form of glucose. And carbs is also very important because it is the source of energy storage as well in the form of glycogen, okay? So why carbs is important for our recovery is because of the restoration of our muscle and liver glycogen, okay, the energy storage. So the depletion of muscle glycogen is actually associated with fatigue and the reduction of intensity of sustained exercise, okay? So when you delay the feeding, okay, by 2 hours or more, then the glycogen deplete, the glycogen synthesis rate will be reduced. So this is not a good sign, especially for athletes. Okay, so now here is just the guideline, just a reference to showcase that different type of intensity will require different amount of carbs. Okay, so of course, the higher intensity you have, so the more carbs you need. And for speedy refueling means the acute recovery. Okay, so these are the this is the references as well, but I will not touch much on like how to calculate. Okay, so just for your information to have a look. Okay, now we move on to protein. I believe just now Dr. Simon has shared a lot, okay, about protein, so I will not touch much on this part. Okay, so yeah, basically protein, the purpose for recovery is of course to promote the muscle protein synthesis, okay, promote MPS, and also to repair the muscle fiber from the exercise-induced damage, and of course to inhibit the muscle breakdown. Okay, so how do we increase MPS? Like just now, Dr. Simon has shared the daily protein intake, okay, is around the range of how much, okay, and also the protein distribution. So actually, latest study, it showed that the protein distribution is very essential in order to promote the MPS, okay? So how much do you need? Okay, at least you need to have 3 main meals, and then you have to calculate like 0.25 to 0.3 gram per kg body weight, okay? And it has to be spread out for that 3 main meal, and of course to have addition of like 1 to 2 snacking, okay? Usually for athletes, it's like for our post-recovery, meaning that after their training, okay, we will have another recovery session for them, okay? And also the pre-bed protein, okay? So why pre-bed protein is important? It's especially important for athletes, especially when they are having hypertrophy program or injured athletes, which we can see the significant loss of the lean body mass. So pre-bed is actually very important. How much you need for the pre-bed? Okay, is around you can multiply by 0.3 to 0.5. It depends on cases actually. Okay, so we will adjust there. Okay, or for recreational athletes, okay, for active individual, you can opt for milk. Okay, so milk is actually a very good recovery snack. Why? Because it consists of carbs, it consists of different types of protein. It has whey and casein protein. Casein, which is the slow releasing protein. Okay, so it's also very crucial to help assist in the MPF. Okay, so now move on to fluid. So yes, fluid is actually important to maintain the plasma volume. Okay, why? It's because it will help to transport oxygen and also nutrients throughout the whole body. Okay, it also allows the muscle contraction to take place. So it's essentially important. Okay, because I think everyone is aware that if, let's say, dehydrated, you have a severe dehydration, it will cause some symptoms or side effects like cramping. Okay, so fluid is also important to regulate the body temperature, okay, by sweating. So yeah, Malaysia weather is hot, so I believe everyone, if let's say after you sweat, you will feel okay, you feel better, you feel more cool. So that is the importance of sweating. Okay, so for fluid, it of course comes together with the electrolyte. So electrolyte, we have to maintain the plasma electrolyte as well in our body. So electrolyte, what we have sodium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, and also potassium. Okay, so for sweat, okay, when we are sweating, okay, fluid loss. So the higher concentration of electrolytes such as sodium and chloride will be lost through the sweat. Okay, and just smaller amounts of the calcium, magnesium, and potassium will be lost through the sweat. So it's important, especially I'll discuss further later on. Okay, it's important for athletes to replace back their electrolyte as well. It's not just fluid. Okay, it's important as well to replace back the electrolyte to prevent cramping as well. Okay, so sodium intake is also important because it will induce the fluid intake, and also it will help in the fluid retention by increasing the absorption in the intestine and also reduce the urine output. So it is important electrolyte to prevent further fluid loss in the body. Okay, so now just a little sharing about the hydration assessment. Okay, yeah, because we are here, we are more on practitioners, so I feel I'm very grateful if I can share this hydration assessment for everyone out there, so you can even assess your own hydration level. Okay, so how you can actually assess through urine volume or urine color. So when your urine volume is like very less or concentrated with the dark color, it means that your body is actually undergoing dehydration. So it is time to replace back your fluid, rehydrate back. Okay. So besides that, you can also monitor through the body weight loss or urine specific gravity if you have the pen refractometer. Okay, or else, yeah, you can use the I believe bioelectrical impedance analysis is very convenient out there. Okay, it's very accessible nowadays. So besides measuring using this BIA, besides measuring your body fat and also your lean body mass, it can actually monitor the total body water as well. So this is also one of the methods to assess your hydration. Okay, so yeah, so here I mentioned the body weight loss. So I would like to show you how to monitor your fluid loss through the body weight loss method. Okay, so you can just weigh yourself before and after training. Okay, to get a more accurate one, before you can get a pair or two attire with similar weight. Okay, so before you weigh yourself, so you can wear the attire A. Okay, after training, so make sure you need to remove that attire A because it is soaked with the sweat. So if you measure, so it may be less accurate. So I would suggest you to change your attire to a dry one with a similar weight, okay? So you can get your weight loss. Okay, so the weight loss, you can multiply by 1.5 and you will around 1.25 to 1.5, and you can know how much water or how much fluid to replace back for the next 6 hours. Okay. Yep. So now I have gone through with the nutrients consideration, and then now we would go for different sport groups. Okay, because like just now, initially I had mentioned everyone is different, and then every sport is different as well. Not everyone needs the same amount of recovery nutrients. Okay, so I will go with the sport group, and then firstly, it's about the strength and power sports. Okay, so what is strength and power sports? Strength and power sports, it's actually they are having the competitive event, which is like less than 3 minutes, like our athletic thrower or sprinter, and even like weightlifting, powerlifting. Okay, but then you have to know that for their training, it's not that they just run for 10 seconds and that's all. That's all for the session. Okay, so basically their training, especially for our Malaysia team, our elite level team, they train around 2 hours per session, and it's actually at least 2 sessions per day. Okay, so with this training and then incorporate with the moderate to high intensity of training, okay, involving the muscle strength, endurance, and explosive power. So it is actually very important for them to recover back, okay, or else their body is not ready for the next session. Okay, so yep, carbs is essentially important for this type of sport group athletes. It's not just protein, okay? So we all know that protein is for the muscle, for the recovery of the muscle, like for MPS, everything, and prevent the muscle breakdown. But without adequate carbs, okay, we will hamper the protein sparing. What is protein sparing? So it's actually the process by which the body uses other source for energy, okay, besides protein. Like a very good point mentioned by Dr. Simon just now. He mentioned that the protein does not just work alone. Okay, if you would like to have to improve your muscle mass. Okay, so this is why you need to have carbs to do the work. Okay, for the energy source, or else the protein can't do its job properly, because the protein need to be broken down for the energy, and you do not have enough protein for the muscle protein synthesis. Okay, so for this type of group, carbs and protein is essentially important. It doesn't mean that fluid and electrolyte is not important, okay, but just for them, they need to have maybe like extra carbs and protein. Okay, but in terms of the specific amount, I will not touch, because like I mentioned, everyone is different, but I'll just give you a general insight. Okay, for them, carbs and protein, they need to have extra. Okay, so now we move on to the second sport, which is the endurance sport group. Okay, so according to the definition, so endurance sport group is actually the competitive event for a period last more than 3 minutes. Okay, so we can see we have marathon, we have triathlon, we have road cycling. So usually for their event, okay, it's very long duration. It has a very long duration. Okay, some may be like 1 hour, and some may be up to 6 hours. Okay, like ultra marathon. So for them, muscle endurance and strength is important, as well as the cardio endurance is also very important. And usually for their training period is also like around 2 to 3 hours per session. Okay, So you can see that for them, they rely primarily on the aerobic system to provide them the energy. But in the case of ultra endurance, like for more than 6 hours, maybe fat may take place to supply the energy. Okay, and for endurance type of sport group, they are prone to dehydration due to the long hour of the event. Okay, so yeah, so can you guess which is like they need to have extra of the nutrients? Yeah, so they need to have extra of carbs, fluid, and electrolyte, especially for the acute recovery. Okay, so again, it doesn't mean that protein is not important. Okay, so protein is actually still very important for them, but for the post, the acute recovery, they need to like immediately replace back the carbs, fluid, and electrolyte. Okay, of course, fluid and electrolyte is to prevent the cramping. Okay, and also the carbs is to replace back their the blood glucose, the liver muscle glycogen. Okay, so now we move on to the third sport group, which is the intermittent sport. Okay, so intermittent sports, they usually involve with the start and stop movement. Okay, like they have like the jumping movement, sprinting, tackling. Okay, and of course they do have execution of the sport specific skill as well. Okay, so for the competition event period, it may be from 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on what sport it is. Okay, and the training period, the same. Usually they will have 2 sessions per day. Okay, involved with moderate to high intensity. It depends on the training program as well. Sometimes they will just have light training with the more on skill-based training, and then sometimes we'll have moderate to high intensity. Okay, so for intermittent sports, we have different category. Okay, we have the endurance-based, which, for example, football. We also have like the court sport type, like badminton, squash, basketball. We do have also the strength and power field like rugby. Okay, so for this different type of intermittent sports, their requirement is also slightly different. Okay, so for the endurance based like football, okay, for the post recovery, the acute recovery, okay, usually they will need to have addition of carbs and also fluid and electrolyte. Okay, so for the court sport, it's similar to the endurance sport. They will need to have replace back their carbs, electrolytes, and fluid. Okay, so yes, protein, they do need the protein as well, depending on their training program, and then they will have different amounts. But usually they need to focus more on the carbs, fluid, and electrolyte. But it's slightly different for the strength and power field sports like rugby. Okay, because for their sports, they will need more muscle mass. Okay, the bulk. Okay, the sport nature. So for this type of sports, they will need extra protein as well. Okay, so next we move on to the combat sports. Okay, for combat sports, it depends. It has a lot of variety. We have boxing, we have Muay Thai, we have karate, taekwondo, silat. Okay, so for this type of sports, they usually involve the muscular strength, power, agility. Okay, so yep, since they involve a lot of action of the punching, kicking, or grappling. Okay, so it's more on the anaerobic type. So the carbs intake is also very important for them. Okay, and also because they require the muscle mass to do a lot of this movement. Okay, so protein intake is also needed for them, like the addition. But you have to bear in mind, because for this combat sport, there are a lot of wet category sports. So for them, you need to plan properly and plan precisely whether they have met their weight classes or they are going into the weight making phases. Okay, so if let's say they are doing this, so maybe the recovery strategy will be slightly different, but generally they will still focus on carbs and also protein. Okay. So now this is the last one, skill sports. Okay, so for skill sports, they do not necessarily focus on like specific physiological characteristics. Okay, like our strength and power sports and etc. Okay, so for them, their performance is like influenced more by the cognitive and also the psychomotor skill. Okay, so we have a lot of skill sports, for example, dart, we have bowling. Okay, but now I will just mention on the outdoor, okay, the outdoor type of skill sports. This is because it's very related to our nutrition strategy, recovery strategy. Okay, and of course, the outdoor, the environment factor will directly impair the cognitive, the physiological, and also the psychological response as well. Okay, example, if let's say they are overly dehydrated, so it will impact the cognitive. Okay, so example, we have archery, lawn ball, or golf. Okay, so it's not just that they are standing outdoor like for just 10 minutes. Okay, their training is like for up to 2 hours. Okay, and they have to come to and fro the court. Okay, like for archery, to pick up the ball, everything is very hot, so it's very important for them to replace back the fluid and also the electrolyte. Okay, so I think I have covered everything in this around 20 minutes time, I think. Okay, so let me sum up everything. So it is very essential to identify the specific nutrients according to the training needs. Okay, so it's very important as well to have enough and proper nutrition, especially post-training. Okay, because this is the key component to support the recovery and also to support the training adaptation. Because for elite level athletes, they do not train just for that single session. They have to train repetitively every single day. Even in one day, they have 2 sessions. So it's very, very, very important for them to train, okay, to maximize their training, maximize the recovery so they can adapt in the next training session. Okay. And yeah, lastly, would like to share that nutrition recovery strategy is different. Okay, it's different according to sports, and also it needs to be individualized. So I think that's all from me. So these are the references. If you guys are interested, you can have a look. Okay, and with that, I would like to thank everyone for your attention and your participation. Thank you. I shall hand over to our MC.
Right, thank you very much, Ms. Christabelle, with very insightful presentations. I greatly appreciate the presentation you gave, even though it's short, but it's incredible, informative, and interesting. And as I mentioned on the presentation, actually, for the recovery nutrition, we must make sure it depends on the training methods and depends on the athletes. And also the last sentence you just mentioned, it must be individualized for the nutrition recovery. All right. Thank you very much again, Ms. Christabelle. So now,
thank you.
Now we on the Q&A sessions. So actually, we already have few questions, and we go through all the questions. But I have few questions actually. So I would like to ask Dr. Simon first. From my my questions. Can you mention about the recommended intakes for the protein should be from this and this? Is it any different between gender for the protein recommend intakes for female, and is it difference between them, the gender?
Well, as Christabelle already mentioned, it's very personalized. Of course, if we talk about muscle mass, male has a little bit more muscle mass than female, but it really depends on their exercise goals. If you talk about a cyclist or male cyclist compared to a female weightlifter, so the female weightlifter, of course, need more muscle mass for that. So the protein need, of course, is higher. So in general, that's why we have to give a general recommendation, give a range of the protein need, because everybody will be different based on what kind of exercise they are, their age, when they are getting older, they are easier to lose their muscle. So that's why there are studies on, as I mentioned, using leucine, because it looks like they can help them to maintain some more muscle mass in elderly. And also your exercise activity and your duration of exercise or intensity. So there can be difference of if you just general two people, male, female, but not really exercising a lot, general population, yes, male may have a little bit more need than female. But if their exercise is different, then there's a personalized nutrition needed to help them to determine.
All right, that means that the nutrition, the protein intakes depends on the exercise that the person involved, I think, and also it depends on the what they're consuming before the carbohydrates or anything. So I think that's the best way to make sure that we are consuming the right proteins for our body. It doesn't matter about female or male. All right. My next question to Simons, because you mentioned about the protein, the MPS, the muscle protein synthesis, it's always happen during the bad time before. I think during our sleep time. Why this always happen in our sleep times for the MPS, the muscle protein synthesis?
Yeah, so basically it is a stimulation of the muscle. So when there's like amino acids and protein intakes there, that starts stimulating. So after the digestion, after use or those amino acids, and the muscle will start have a breaking down time. So as you can see in the curve, it's like up and down, up and down. So that's why that research particularly is saying that there is a benefit if we consume some protein before bedtime, because we sleep for like 6 to 8 hours time with no food intake. So if there's some protein intake before bed, that can help also to build muscle, especially for people they want to build more muscle mass. That is one of the strategy they may consider to do it. Of course, some people, they cannot eat a lot of food before sleep. So you take a approach, trial and error to see, like, don't take too much to start if you have never eat a lot before bed. But if you want to start eating some and see if you have any gastric or abdominal discomfort, so don't force yourself too much, but at the same time, you can start doing that to try to see if it can help you to build more muscle before bed.
All right, thank you for the answer, Dr. Simons. My last question to you from my side, Dr. Simons. Okay. We know that the protein supplement is very important. And then is it important to take supplements for the high performance athletes from the supplements, or we can get it from the raw?
Well, as a registered dietitian, I'm sure Christabelle will agree with me. Like, go for food first. We always encourage food to get all the nutrients you need. However, we need to look at for high performance athletes. Sometimes they need a higher amount of intake. I was just thinking an example is like, okay, if you need 40 grams of protein, think about like how much food you need. One egg is giving around 7 grams. You may need like 5 or 6 of eggs to get that 40 grams of protein. So supplements can also help because if it's a little bit more concentrated. I personally use soy protein and also whey protein, and one scoop can give me maybe like 24 grams of protein already. So it's also for the convenience. Of course, if you can use food to do it, that is also encouraged, but I think it's for convenience. Supplement may help. I don't know, Christabelle, maybe you have some more things to add for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, I agree with Simon. Yeah, food comes first, okay, because food we have all the other nutrients besides just protein. Yep. But like what Simon says, because I'm a practitioner, and then I deal with my athletes every single day, and we as I mentioned, different sports. Okay, for example, I have powerlifting sports, okay, with the higher weight category athletes. So sometimes it's a bit tough for them to achieve, like, for example, 30 grams of HBV protein, okay? So sometimes it's very tough for you to just feed them the raw meat or the egg, okay? So that is why when supplements come in, so it is to help to top up the addition requirement aside from food. Okay, so sometimes it's very heartbreaking when you see your athletes, they wanted to gain the muscle mass, but it's very tough for them to eat solely from the food. So sometimes, yeah, it's important here for the supplement to help to achieve the requirement. But of course, not every athlete need the supplement. Okay, so like our role, sport dietitian or sport nutritionist, okay, it's our role to calculate how much of the requirement they need, and then yeah, we'll just plan. So if let's say any individual out there, if you would like to know whether you require the protein supplement or not, so maybe you can have some certified nutritionists or sport nutritionists, sport dietitians out there to help you to plan it out. Yep.
All right, thank you, Ms. Christabelle and Simon. Simon, I will get back to you for the audience questions. Now my question is to Ms. Christabelle. This question is from the chat box from the YouTube. From your point of view, does diet techniques such as keto diet, Atkins diet, or darkened diets suitable for practice toward high performance athletes? Ms. Christabelle, can you respond to questions?
Thank you for the question. Okay, so your question is about the different type of diet technique like keto, Atkins. So does that help towards the high performance athlete? Okay, so first of all, we still need to look back. What athletes do you mean? Okay, we have endurance type, we have strength and endurance type. So for example, endurance type, yes, sometimes keto diet do help. Okay, why? Because when we know endurance sport, after their body have utilized the glycogen, so they will start to utilize the fat in the body, the free fatty acid. Okay, so with the proper protocol you plan, okay, so yes, it will help in terms of the performance, but more on endurance type, okay, but not really on the strength and power sports, which they need the ATP, okay, they need the carbs, the muscle, because we know that when the utilization of fat is much lower as compared to carbs, okay, so it has to depend on what sports you are mentioning, okay, not for the sports like sprinters, okay, or like your track, sprint, cycling, okay, not for that, but for endurance sport, yes, maybe. But and another crucial point to take home is that in Malaysia, you need to know keto diet. When keto diet, we mean high fat diet and high protein. So when the high fat, you need to know the fat is comes from the saturated fat or the unsaturated. In Malaysia, I believe it's maybe sometimes it's tough for us to get the healthy fat, and sometimes it's expensive as well. So the fat available for us is mostly the saturated. Okay, so we do not really recommend you to have a long-term keto diet. Okay, and for like recreational athletes or just active individuals, so I do not really recommend keto diet as well, because you really need to have proper planning on the food type, the food choices, and your period of use to involve this keto diet. But to answer your question, yes, depending on sport, and also the protocol, the period, okay, when you would like to on this keto or the Atkins diet, and when you would like to off it, okay. So yes, it will help, depend on the sport.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Christabelle. It depends on the sport. All right, I go back to you, Dr. Simons. The question, as a vegetarian, can I get enough protein as compared to the meat eaters?
Well, it depends on what kind of vegetarian you are. If you are ovo-lacto vegetarian, that means you eat eggs and milk. That will be easier for you to consume enough protein without meat. If you are vegan, then it will be a little bit more challenging. But remember, like soy protein is complete protein, so you can use soy products. And other plant protein, for example, I think is very popular right now. Some people use pea protein, but pea protein is not complete. So you may need to add rice protein or quinoa protein to make it all complete. So that's why it's possible you can get enough protein, but just choose carefully your protein source. And as I mentioned again, soy protein is one of the best protein because it's complete. So
the next question is actually the next question related to the question you just answered, the Simons. I think this one's from the one of our audience. What are some food source that give high essential amino acids?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one's easy. So as I mentioned earlier, like eggs, whey protein, dairy protein, those are very good source of essential amino acids protein because they are complete protein, and that's why they are higher in quality already. And soy protein also give you a lot of the essential amino acids. So those are the food is, as I just mentioned with the vegetarian question, those are good source of protein that they can consider.
All right, Simon. Last question before I get back to Miss Christabelle. What's the disadvantage when the high performer, elite athletes doesn't follow the recommendation for the protein intakes? Maybe they are taking more protein or less protein. What happened to them? What's the disadvantage for it?
Well, it depends. So if it depends on the exercise goals, right? So if they are doing resistant exercise, they want to build muscle mass, but when you have not enough protein, that would be more challenging for the body to achieve the goal you want. If you talk about like taking a lot more protein, our body can use just kind of maximum amounts. If you have too much protein in your body, we have a process called deamination. So basically, your liver and kidney is trying to break the protein down and try to use it for something else, and then the remaining of those things will go to your urine and pee out. So that is something that that's why, as Christabelle mentioned, it's good to see a registered dietitian or certified nutritionist calculate how much you need and to meet your goal. So you don't want to just go to eat something less or eat something more. It's better to understand our body and know what exact amount that you should be at what range of protein you should take. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, Martha Simons. Miss Christabelle, I'm really interested when I read your background because you are work with the Paralympic athletes for Malaysia. So I have curious questions because Paralympics will be a bit different compared to the normal peoples. So how you encourage them, how you educate them to be in the right diet and nutrition during the training or after, especially during the recovery times, how you educate, encourage them for that?
Okay, so it's actually I can say firstly the rapport is essentially important. Yeah, the rapport. Okay, when you have the rapport, the athlete has trusted you, has the trust in you. Okay, so it's like they kind of like believe in you. So when what you deliver to them, okay, they will try to listen. Okay, but it has to depend on the behavior of the athlete as well. So here we actually include like usually we use a lot of behavioral therapy. Okay, so and also different types of communication skills. Okay, like I mentioned, because different disability, okay, they will have different understanding level. So it's very important for us to assess them first. Okay, be it formal or informal assessment, you need to know which level of your athletes are. Okay, then you have to like very individualize. So it's like, okay, let's say the athlete level is, the literacy level is not that high, and the way you explain to them, you need to play around the words. Okay, if let's say you explain to them with all the jargon, all the technical terms, I can say none of them will listen to you, or even they listen to you, none of them will understand. So you have to match yourself with them. Okay, so means we have to blend in together with them, and then repetition is very important. You have to keep repeating the same thing in order for them to receive it. Okay, for example, the function of vitamin C. Maybe you need to explain it you need to deliver for 1 week, then they will just know, oh, okay, now I know what is vitamin C. Okay, so I can say it's very challenging, but it's very fun to work with them. Yep.
Yes.
To be very versatile,
Yeah.
creative.
First, you must build the rapport, and you
Yep.
must attach to them and build
Yes.
the trust with them. I think that's one of the key factors to
Yes.
educate or to encourage them to be good in nutrition, especially for the nutrition and recovery. All right,
Yep.
Miss Christabelle, because you mentioned about the importance of the nutrition during the recovery. So, what's the disadvantage when, especially for the elite athletes, when they does not follow the recommendations?
Okay. So, if let's say they do not follow the nutrition recovery, in long term, okay, it may lead to injury, which I believe none of the athlete or none of us would like to see this happen. Okay, because when you do not recover well, so your body could not adapt or could not follow the pace of the training, so it will slowly lead to injured. Okay, so this is what we always remind athletes to make sure to maximize, to do properly on their recovery. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Dr. Simon, last question from the audience.
Okay.
Plant-based protein versus animal-based protein. Is there any difference, and which is the best?
Thanks for the question. It depends on how you look at it. If you talk about just the protein, the amino acids, chemically, they're the same. But one thing is very important is what does those food come with? If you look at animal protein, let's talk about meats, right? Many of them may have saturated fat and may have cholesterol. If you look at plant protein, many times they come with some carbohydrate or they come with fiber. So meat proteins, more time will come with iron, but plant-based protein, they may not have a lot of iron. So it really depends. If you look, there's no such thing called the best, because we always say there's a balanced diet. You want a variety of different food to give you a complete nutrition profile. So that's why it really, of course, it depends your preference too. So just choose carefully. If you do plant-based protein, you may need to look at your vitamin B12 or your iron. So those are the nutrients you may need to pay attention to. So that's why that's not the best, but it's better to have both. Unless you're a vegetarian, then as I mentioned earlier, you have a good combination of your protein source.
Yeah, I would like to add on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So besides what has been delivered by Dr. Simon, so it's actually we do look into the bioavailability as well. Okay, so for the animal-based, bioavailability means the absorption rate will be slightly better than the plant-based. But no worry if, let's say, you are a vegan or you're vegetarian. Yeah, so you can, like what Dr. Simon mentioned, you can still have from a variety of food choices. Yeah.
Thank you to the both of you, Ms. Christabelle and Dr. Simon. Looks like we answered all the questions. Maybe Dr. Simon, is there anything else you would like to mention before we end our discussion today, Dr. Simon?
Well, I just want to thank you everyone for having me today. It's really a pleasure to meet all of you, especially Ms. Christabelle. Yeah, I'd love to meet the other registered dietitians all the time. And thank you again for the invitation. I really like this session. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Simon. How about you, Christabelle? Would you like to mention anything?
Yeah, I would also love to thank everyone here, everyone participating this session today, and would like to thank the organizer, UiTM, Herbalife. Also, thank you, Dr. Simon, for the wonderful presentation. So I believe I have learned a lot from you as well. Yep. So if anything, like in Malaysia, kita kata kalau salah silap, maafkanlah. Okay, so I apologize if I have any wrongdoing or what. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for the participation. Thank you.
Kami maafkan, Ms. Christabelle. Just kidding. All right. Thank you much for both speaker, Dr. Simon Sams and Ms. Christabelle Chong. Thank you very much for your time to prepare such an extraordinary, wonderful presentation. the time, efforts you took to share your thoughts and experience. I greatly appreciate your presentation that you gave, even though it's short. I think maybe next time UiTM and collaborate with the Herbalife Nutrition, we can do more webinar with both of you, I'm sure. All right. And then incredibly informative and interesting from both of you. Thank you very much again, Dr. Simons and Miss Christabelle.
Thank you.
Dear all,
Thank you.
that's the end for our webinar today. Please stay with us because we are going to continue our webinar today with our closing ceremony. And I will hand over the session to Mr. Luke. It's on you now. Thank you very much. Thank you again. Bye. I think Mr. Luke having some problem with the connections. So actually we are on the closing ceremony. So I would like to invite our Dean, Professor Dr. Muhammad Anizu Muhammad Noor, Dean, the Faculty of the Sports Science and Recreation of UiTM, to give some speech for the closing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon. Mr. Stephen Chin, Senior Director, General Manager, Herbalife Nutrition Malaysia and Singapore. Our invited speakers, Dr. Simon Sama and Miss Christabelle Chong. Associate Professor Dr. Husni Hassan, Deputy Dean of Research and Industry Linkage. Associate Professor Dr. Mahendran, our Senior Lecturer, all lecturers, students, organizing committee, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, on behalf of the Faculty of Sports Science and Recreation, UiTM Shah Alam, I would like to thank Herbalife Nutrition Malaysia and also Malaysia National Sport Institute for working together with Faculty of Sports Science and Recreation, UiTM Shah Alam, in organizing this webinar. The highest recognition to our both prominent speakers, Dr. Simon Sam, Director, North America Scientific Affairs, Herbalife Nutrition, and Ms. Christabelle Chong, Sport Dietitian for National Sport Institute of Malaysia. Also, thank you very much to our great moderator, Dr. Ahmad Zulkarnain Ismail, our Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Sport Science and Recreation at UiTM Campus Arau, Perlis. And not forget to all who are involved directly or indirectly in organizing this webinar. So this webinar is actually very meaningful and fruitful in providing new knowledge to all participants, especially the aspect of getting an appropriate nutrients for foods or food or drink or fluid before we can do any exercises, physical activities, or involved in any sport game as well. So I think that this topic, following your exercise, I think is very good topic and appropriate to all participants, especially to all to the elite athletes, because they have to know. For the elite athlete, for example, they have to know what the good nutrient for them before, during, and after. I mean, involved in any sports tournament, this sport game. So on behalf of the faculty, I would like to. I hope this. The Herbalife Nutrition Malaysia will be working together next time, providing more knowledge and experience, and in terms of any aspect that related to sport nutrition in specific. So I think this is very good, especially our students also. We are from sports science program. They have the subject in sport nutrition. I think as a Professor Dr. Mahendran is one of the senior lecturer in this topic. So I think this is a very, very good topic to our students as a added value for them, a good knowledge and experience today that they have today. So I think this webinar can be continued in the next future. So with that note, once again, thank you very much to all who are involved in this webinar. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our Dean, Professor Dr. Muhammad Anizu Muhammad Noor, Dean, Faculty of Sport Science and Recreation of UiTM, for the closing remarks. So I think we are at the end of the webinar. So again, I would like to say thank you very much to our both speakers, Dr. Simon Sam, the Director of North American Scientific Affairs Herbalife Nutrition, and also our second speaker, Ms. Christabelle Chong, the Sport Dietitian from the National Sport Institute, for the very insightful presentation. And I'm sure all the audience, including myself, we receive many facts, many information about the nutrition, especially for the priorities for the high performance and also the nutrition for the recovery. So yeah, that's the end of our webinar on the fueling your exercise of the collaboration between Faculty of Sport Science and Recreation, ISN, and also the Herbalife Nutrition. And I'm really hoping that this webinar will be conduct again, and probably we will discuss about another topic that related to nutrition in future and then probably we invite the speakers again, Ms. Christabelle and also the Simons, and hopefully you will accept our invitation later. All right, so that's the end for the webinar. And then hopefully I will see you again for next. Thank you very much, guys. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Simon. Thank you.
Thank you. So we can log off now, right?
Yep. Thank you,
Oh,
Christabelle.
thank you.
Simon.
Nice
Thank you,
meeting you all.
Christabelle.
Thank you.